The story of Bernie Sanders begins far from the bright lights of politics, in a small apartment in Brooklyn where every corner whispered stories of struggle. Bernie was just a young boy then, watching his parents stretch every dollar and still come up short. His father, a quiet immigrant from Poland, worked long hours to keep the family afloat. His mother tried her best to hide the stress that lived inside the walls of their home. But Bernie felt it. He grew up with the kind of worries that shape a person long before they understand the world. He wasn't the loudest kid in school or the most confident. He was the boy who watched everything carefully, always trying to understand why life was so unfair. Some families had more food than they needed, while others had barely enough to make it through the week. Some kids talked about vacations, while others like Bernie wondered how their parents would pay next month's rent. These weren't just childhood memories for him, they became the roots of everything he would one day fight for. In college, Bernie realized he had a voice, and that voice could mean something. America was boiling with tension, inequality, and racial injustice, and Bernie refused to stand on the sidelines. He marched when others stayed quiet. He protested when silence felt easier. He stood shoulder to shoulder with people who were demanding fairness, even when the world called it troublemaking. Bernie didn't chase popularity, he chased justice. He didn't want power, he wanted change. Life never rolled out a red carpet for him. He worked simple jobs, lived in small apartments, and struggled like the very people he cared about. But every hardship sharpened his purpose. When he entered local politics in Vermont, he didn't arrive with money or connections. All he carried was a stubborn belief that ordinary people deserved extraordinary respect. Slowly, his fiery honesty began to spread. People listened because he wasn't pretending. His words came from real experiences, real scars, real memories. When Bernie spoke about healthcare, he remembered the fear his parents felt when a medical bill arrived. When he talked about living wages, he remembered neighbors who worked themselves to exhaustion and still couldn't climb out of poverty. When he demanded fairness in America, he remembered standing in the cold outside his family's building, wondering why life treated some people like they mattered and others like they didn't. Years later, when he ran for president, millions of young people connected with him instantly. They saw a man who had spent his whole life fighting for them. They saw authenticity in every sentence, passion in every gesture, and hope in every promise. Bernie Sanders didn't become a symbol because he won the White House. He became a symbol because he never stopped believing that ordinary people deserved dignity, security, and opportunity. His story is a reminder that greatness doesn't always come from comfort or privilege. Sometimes, it rises from a small apartment, a worried family, and a young boy who refused to accept that unfairness was normal. Bernie Sanders grew up with struggle, and he turned that struggle into a lifelong mission to make sure no one else felt forgotten.
Whose inspiring story of politician would you like to hear next? Tell us in the comments below.